What is up, Flick fans, and welcome back to my channel. I just watched Ready Player One. Ready Player One is directed by Steven Spielberg, his first major blockbuster in a while, so I'm very excited to talk about it. If you guys have never watched a review from me, I like to talk about the good, the bad, and then give you my score. Let's dive right in. So like I said, this movie's directed by Steven Spielberg. I don't know why I have that accent right now. I was very vaguely excited about it. I like the trailers, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, there are some things in here that make me feel like this movie could be muddled and bogged down by too many characters, too many gratuitous cameos, too many CGI avatars. Because watching the trailer, you're like, does that look good? Because it kind of looks like a video game, but then you're like, wait a minute, it's supposed to look like a video game. So it has that sense of realism, yet it keeps the video game aspect. And watching the movie, I appreciated that very much. I thought this movie was gorgeous to look at. The CGI, the action scenes, even something as simple as following a character around. The way that Steven Spielberg shoots this movie, I mean, at this point, you're beating a dead horse. I do not advocate animal violence. But I can give these compliments to Spielberg all day. I want to talk about what is magical about specifically Ready Player One. Let's start with the way that Spielberg handles his characters. And you don't get to know them as well as you do certain characters in certain other Spielberg films, but for me, I'm okay with that because this is a world in which people are so addicted to video games, they are all living in this fantasy world. Now, you look at the way that this movie is laid out, and yes, you don't get to know these characters as well in real life, but when you get into their video game avatars, this is where you get to know these characters, and this is where I think the movie thrives, and the reason that I think it's okay that you don't get to know them in real life as well as you do in the video game is because I think the movie is trying to tell us something. I want to understand who this person is, what he does, and why he's doing it. You don't get that from real life because these characters are so invested in this VR program mentality, whatever you want to call it in the future. You learn what they do and who they are through their avatars, and I think the avatars in this movie are explored beautifully. But for people who have that complaint, yeah, I completely understand that. Another thing I really liked about this film is you have so many different standout scenes. You have the car chase scene, you have the scene in the middle, then you have the movie. I can't say anything specifically because the more I give away about this plot, the more you're going to say, well, Austin, that wasn't a surprise in the movie. I'm just saying there are 3 or 4 scenes in here that by the end of 2018, and I'm looking back at what my favorite scenes of the year were, I'd say one of those are going to be in my top 5. I could talk about the cameos. I really don't need to. You guys know they're coming, but I will tell you this. While I was expecting a lot, I wasn't expecting the assortment of characters that we got. How they got the rights to all of these characters, I don't know. There was a lot of Spielberg in there, so I understand that, but there's some I really want to tell you. I want to tell you, but I'm not going to. Just watch the movie. Give it money, too. It's worth watching in the theater. The music is fantastic, and then you get the callbacks to the movies, not just in the characters, but in the theme songs. But do you guys want to know, honestly, my favorite part about this movie? It's just so different from anything we've ever seen before, and I think that's what Spielberg does best. He brings us things that we have seen before in a new way, and then every now and then we'll get a concept, we'll get a movie, we'll get an idea that we have just never seen portrayed in that light on screen before. Who ever thought you could do a movie based on VR, adapted from a book directed by Steven Spielberg with countless, endless cameos, and those cameos wouldn't just be in your face, oh, look at this character is cool. No, they make sense in the film. It just amazes me that we are living in a day and age where we can get a film like this. Guys, I implore you, go watch this movie on a big screen because it will not be the same on the small screen. I will be watching this again. It's only the second movie this year that I have watched multiple times, but I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna make this a 3-timer. Now, this film is not without its flaws. There are things in here that I have nitpicks with and that I disliked a little bit more than I wanted to. I'm not saying this movie is perfect. The reason that I was raving about it so much in the positives is because I just had an absolute blast. There are a few moments when it slows down. You get that lull every now and then. You'll have that, especially in a Steven Spielberg film, but then it just picks right back up. You are constantly on the edge of your seat. There were people in the theater laughing and smiling and even screaming out loud, and then some girl told that girl to shush. It was kind of rude. rude. A few of his friends, not the main girl, she was fantastic. I loved her in Thoroughbred. She was great, but a few of the other friends, they kind of fell flat when you get to see them in real life, like I said. But for some, that's going to work with how the movie presents them. For me, it worked, but I can definitely see how it's going to take others out of a movie. Also, when one of those characters is driving the van and they're driving like this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I hate when people in movies drive and they talk to the person next to them the entire time and never look at the road. It bothers me. It happened here, and I'm just sitting there like, why? It's so good, but why are you doing this? And yes, a big problem for me is that you don't get time to spend with these characters outside of the video game, but I think the biggest problem is, honestly, I had an issue with the voiceover. Now, I think it worked with what Spielberg was trying to do, but I don't like when voiceovers are constantly giving exposition. Yeah, a little voiceover would have been fine, but you get some at the beginning, some at the end. The end wasn't so bad for me, but at the beginning, you're seeing things play out on screen. You're seeing characters do certain things. While Wade Watts is voicing over it and telling us what happened, it's like, man, I could have figured that out on my own. I don't think I needed the narration. For me, it was just a device to give you exposition, and I don't like when movies do that. And speaking of exposition, we get a lot of scenes that kind of tell you what's happening. Yes, it's a world that we don't understand, but I feel like actions speak louder than words, and this would have been a great situation to apply that fact. Spielberg, I think you know better than that, but you still gave us a very entertainingly fun movie. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Ready Player One a very solid 88%. This is my second favorite movie of the year so far. I had an absolute blast. If you guys want to check out my rankings so far, I have those on my Letterboxd page that's in the description below. Today's comment spotlight comes in from Jack Harrington, who commented on my video last week. Thank you for telling me that I gave a good review, but even more importantly, he said he was saving his cash for Ready Player One. Well, guess what, Jack? You need to go watch this movie. You did a good job of saving your cash. I hope you like it. Thank you guys so much for liking my videos and leaving comments. Be sure to comment your thoughts. What did you think of Ready Player One? Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? I had an absolute blast watching it. I hope you guys do too. Stick around for 2 Netflix reviews this weekend and a very special video on Saturday. You guys are the absolute best, and I will catch you later.